We're going.
People of color are awesome at creating culture that white people love. How do we use that?
Not everything is just about voting. Young people deserve a space to have these conversations, and we need to stop making this about people who are over 18 and realize that there's some real power with youth who aren't able to vote, who are doing the work just as well as older adults are.
Absolutely.
I want to lift up that RJ is about being in touch with communities, with our communities, and knowing how to speak and work with our communities. And want to lift up that culture shift and our work needs to include communities of color and voices of people of color from the onset, not as an afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
We need to pay attention to all communities and not just statistics.
Mm-hmm.
RJ groups have been doing culture change for a long time, and it feels very invisible. Even in meetings about culture change or funding related to culture change. How do we lift that up without tokenizing? How do we build coalitions that where people of color and RJ groups don't feel like an afterthought?
Mm-hmm.
Grassroots movement building is about meeting people where they are, and I have to lift up that that's what reproductive justice organizations and communities of color have been doing really our whole lives. It's what we do naturally. We sit around the table and we'll have that argument with our tia if we need to about where she stands on abortion or on gay marriage or on transgender individuals. And I think that when we're confronting these issues, what's really important is that we're doing the internal work. No matter if we're people of color, if we're white folks, we got to break down what makes us uncomfortable to get to that point of realizing culture shift.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really struck by some of the silos that we've created that may accidentally be holding us back, and whether that is siloing around funding that defines culture as something separate from policy or comms or RJ, or whether it's internal kind of expertise structures around the difference between comms and organizing and what is and isn't allowed to be political. I think we've got to start seeing this as something that infuses everywhere. But as we're looking for frames that are larger and more powerful than just abortion as a medical procedure, that's inevitably going to be turning to conversations about family and parenting and autonomy and community building and the vision for the kind of world that we want and we want our children to be living in. And there are people who have been doing that work for a couple decades, and that's where we need to turn.
It is the culture of people of color to shift culture, and that's what we did with this conversation. Thank you for watching.
Woo-hoo!